So that's a really interesting example. I have not actually been able to attend one of those yet. I fully intend to, but, I bet that is also playing a real role in community building.
Yes.
Because I
very
bet the
much.
conversations that go on at that event
Yes.
don't end as people
Yeah.
walk out the door,
Right,
right?
no, it's very powerful.
But yeah, and the bigger thing too about that, as we talk about building and doing all of this, and for me, communication is a big piece, because sometimes things aren't done because as we work, some of the topics are very sensitive, and people aren't comfortable talking about some things. So not like that simulation, and poverty is one of them. Because then you're talking about, sometimes a lot about race and class issues that people aren't comfortable talking in public because, you know, from our past, there's been so much hatred and things from that. So when there are things like that, as we have to plan, it makes us, because I don't think people can do good planning if you don't talk about everything that needs to be laid on the table as you're thinking about how it's gonna look. And so I think those things help us become comfortable about talking about some things that we've been used to hiding inside or just saying in certain places, and not being able to discuss with all races and all sexes and all income people.
Well, and, none of us have had the opportunity yet to read Peter's new book, but what you're talking about is emotional infrastructure, right? You're talking about how do we create that safe place so that those conversations can happen in a way that is positive and that builds community and builds understanding and that brings people together in a way that celebrates. And one of the, as an outsider to you all, one of the things that I just find amazing about Newport News is the diversity and the way you all celebrate that diversity. And to find more ways of doing that and having it be, we had conversations, and I believe in the vision statement, you will not see the word diversity, you will see the word inclusive, and that was deliberate. But the idea is, how do you bring everybody in a way that everyone is comfortable, and it's not, you haven't leveled everybody, so everybody's allowed to be who they are, but together in a community. And so trying to find ways of making that happen. Let me add a comment. I said earlier that poverty is treated in an interesting way in here. We started out with some things around poverty reduction in here, and we took those out and substituted in the term wealth building, because it's not just about reducing poverty. You're less poor than you were before. It's really about the whole bring people into the
Yes.
right. And so we tried to put that concept in here, and feel free to tell us whether it was successful or not, but that was the idea. And I believe that's happened since you've seen it, so I'd love to hear your comments on whether we got that right.
Well, and that's interesting that you say that, because part of the HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development, they're transitioning to how they measure, and it's not on who gets to use it, who's using the services, but how is their life better from the services.
It's about outcomes, not
that's
process.
It. Yes, that's it. The outcome, like from this service, how are we able to
Right.
get them to the next level? It is the wealth building.
Yeah.
Okay, help me with this one. These are 5-year plans, which are every year change. Where do we have the long-term trends that are going to change? Where do we begin to look at those examples? You look at the picture on page 4. I see a beautiful city, and I see two coal companies that in 20 years may not. Where do we start planning for that now? Because when they go out of business, they're gonna leave that ground. And what are we gonna do?
Okay, so that's a very good question. And I will say that some of that has been taken into consideration to the extent that it was considered in things like the comp plan, and the comp plan had in fact, if you look at the comp plan is, I could be wrong on these numbers, 340 pages, and maybe 200 of it is sort of environmental scan. It's what is and what's anticipated. So the extent to which a lot of the documents that feed into this are considered that, it's considered. There was not a separate trends analysis done to feed into this. So we didn't go out and say, all right, what are the things on the horizon long term? It was more based on what kinds of conversations had been had. So your point about coal, I don't know that that's really been thought about a lot in here. Okay, but again, it's a 5-year plan.
So where do we put
So
that?
where
Is this a separate something that we do to look at plans 20 years out?
what I would say is that on a periodic basis, it is a good idea to do that. And it is a good idea to do that to inform your strategic planning process. And so maybe the next time you do a major update of this, in 3 to 5 years, for instance, it might be good to do that kind of analysis. If there are,
I was going to ask a question, but go ahead.
if there are things that you feel are not adequately covered in here, then I would say blow the whistle on them now, okay?
Would you think that would be in 3, because that's a part of looking at our economic prosperity? I mean, we might not have anything in there right now, but, or would that include,
No, I'm just saying, when you're in a 5-year plan, you're only looking at that. The trend for things to happen, it's coming. And it may be 20 years, but you don't want to wait to year 15 to look at that.
It's a good point. It's a really good point. And again, a more traditional strategic planning process might have had a trends analysis and an environmental scan done. This one was working from the extent to which all of those other plans have already done that,
So how often do you guys have sort of subject matter experts come in and do a talk to council and staff? Like an economist who's going to say, well, here's what we're seeing in the next 3 years.
Or a futurist.
A futurist.
Mostly that's done regionally through,
And we go through
and
that.
we go to that.
Okay, but that doesn't necessarily take into account the locality as much as you'd like. I mean, and not all of you could probably travel to do that. I mean, could that become part of your just ongoing culture that once a month for 30 minutes at a council session, we're going to have an update on something that is important to us both in the near and longer term. So yeah, you find a futurist, you find somebody, a local resource who's going to come in. Somebody's going to come in and talk to you about the latest innovations around brew pubs. Tell you, stuff like
I can
that.
tell you some of that, we had a futurist come in to talk to the leadership. So that, and if council would love, we would love to do that.
I would love to do it.
We would love to
It
engage
just-
you in those kinds of things, but it's gotta be, and I know Councilman Deckers and I talked about, it's not gonna happen in an hour work session before you go to a regular council meeting. That's not conducive to these kinds of conversations. Granted, someone can come in a half hour, but with all the other business, it's a little bit more of a commitment.
It's more work. I totally understand. But if it just becomes, look, you're not going to get a deep dive from a futurist in 30 minutes. But they are going to at least give you, here's a few things, here's some stuff you should be thinking about. And that's all, and I think that's what you're asking for. It's like, look, I don't want to deal with this at the last minute. It's like, give me something now, and over the next few years, over the next term, we'll start to incorporate some of that thinking.
An example, okay, we're buying diesel buses. I mean, the future might be gas, so
Should we start
Future's
planning on
electric.
that?
So,
It's electric.
yeah,
Wait, wait.
or natural gas.
Or natural gas.
The-
Yeah,
So,
natural.
am I right though that a lot of you go to conferences and I'd be willing to hear, to bet that you've heard at some of those conferences about people doing something other than buy diesel buses,
Yep.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And this comes back to, is that something that's important to you? If you want to be known as technologically innovative and such, well, maybe it's important to have buses that become a bumper sticker for the city, that when they go down the street, somebody looks at it and says, ooh, that's pretty innovative, as opposed to, boy, is that old school, this must be an old school city, right?
Here'd be the broader question. Why do you want to wait till you go to a conference to learn something? I mean, that's great, it's why we do it, but I think that should just be inculcated as an ongoing thing. That, hey, every month, we know as a council, we're gonna get smarter, because we're gonna take 30 minutes to have somebody come in and talk to us about something new. Or it could actually be somebody internal, there, that's gonna be able to tell us. A department head to say, look, you don't usually know what we do or how we do it, but I'm gonna tell you what, budgeting might actually be, what, something that helps us all get a little bit smarter. So instead of just, again, we go to conferences to get smarter, but let's make that part of the culture.
And so an example of that might be, you've had somebody working on a micromobility ordinance.
Yes.
And somebody's been researching all about scooters all over the country, maybe they come and they talk to you about it.
Right, so instead of having Jeff
I
Scott
was
come
just saying,
and talk to you.
don't wait for the right opportunity, create it. It's right there. I mean, it's in our face, it's like we're reading it, but okay, but that's just, oh, that's so nice. But it's true. And I think, and what came to my mind when you said that there was when we get the annual report about how we're doing financially or something, and they tell us our good places and the things, that thing, that whatever it is. And I think that that's really important, that if the leadership team got it, but we're the ones leading the city, it would seem that we would get it too. I would think that we would get it along with them so that we can all be on one accord, if you all want to
I'm
get
not
it.
sure what
You're talking about
Are you talking about the CAF, or are you talking about the audit, or?
the audit thing, that audit thing.
They come and present to you.
That's what I'm, no, I'm giving that as an
So,
example.
I mean, they come and
They
present
come and they
to
tell
you.
us the trends are blah, 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 blah. That's what they give us. I think we get that piece of that. But I'm saying, if you all have had someone from the leadership, you keep talking about the leadership team, who I don't know who they are.
It's on my department directors, and from my perspective, to a certain degree, just about every employee that's engaged in a project.
Okay, so if they're receiving this kind of information, and we're supposed to be helping to lead the city, then I would think that that would be really important that we get it too. From a council perspective, or are you saying that you all get it, and then you tell us what y'all do?
Yeah, it depends on you.
Here might be an example of the way you do this. You send people to conferences all the time. It's not just, the council that goes, but staff goes, to Parks and Rec goes to a parks conference. Marketing folks go to a marketing conference. Okay, after they go, say, part of your job is to come back and present something really interesting that you learned at that, to share it with us, something we need to know. That's easy. And again, you don't have to even bring in outside experts there.
We are more than happy to give you any and every bit of information that you would like to see.
But I think
I remember when I was first on council, our work sessions normally started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so there was plenty of time.
Praise them.
I can do that next week if you want, and I'm already getting some folks making some faces.
Well, I'm just
And it's
saying.
great, I can start them at 1 o'clock, but
And
if
we
people
can
don't
go
show up
on.
till 3, or they come and go late, I'm just being honest with you. You know what, and it's not impactful and effective if you're not all there. And I'm just saying, but you all have huge commitments, and we recognize that.
Thank you.
And alternately, you could send out a collection of links that say, go to here, go to here, go to here, here's your reading assignments. Thank you. Thank you, say thanks, I absolutely.
but I can say,
That was fun.
we've never had this conversation before, but I can say, I think people can do it, probably not every second and fourth Tuesday, but I think some longevity in a meeting can be looked at in a quarter, or, to make it realistic.
That would
People
be-
and people won't feel you know, overworked, and they'll look at it more seriously, I think.
We'd be certainly happy to give you some options on that, and even some topics we'd like to bring back to you for
Because I
discussion.
think that economist piece, having that economist, because that's, when I sit in there, it's sponsored by the chamber, you have to usually pay $35, or if you go to the other one, it's $95. But I think about that even, why aren't our regular citizens even listening to that, you know? I mean, well, even having a chance to be in the room to know, because I think it helps more people understand about government. And what we really do, not just going around to events and waving, that it's a lot, that's involved in this job, when you have
Well, it
citizens
is the
saying,
job.
why we can't get, I have citizens, why is that Rite Aid closing on 25th and Jefferson? If the economy is not, and the economics in this community is not sustaining the store, they can't be here.
Well, for example, HRT, and Lisa can back me up, we are now in a project on the south side where they have electric buses, and they will be going to the naval base, and you know, it's a whole new thing, and it is a pilot program that we need to look at, because hopefully it'll come over to our peninsula side. At least I push for it all the time, but south side is doing it, and these are electric buses, and that is the future, absolutely.
Getting-
it's grand.
Getting back to the initial
Because they
question.
said we couldn't do it. We don't have the infrastructure, is their excuse. Right, Lisa?
Yes, ma'am.
So we can't get an electric bus from downtown all the way up to Texas and home.
It has to do more with the charging stations.
Yeah.
The HRT facility on Victoria isn't big enough to house the charging stations, whereas the Norfolk station is. So unless there's more building to house the charging stations for each bus, then that's why it's focused down there.
So obviously, this gets to be a
Councilman
good
Jenkins
example
was trying
of,
to
yeah.
get us.
Just one suggestion, I guess. The original question was about capturing issues that are emerging. And my suggestion was, you know, we have some really talented people here on the city council and in our city leadership. We can't always depend on those people being here when the next iteration of this comes up. If there was some way to incorporate an emerging issues section where they could provide some input so that the next time this is reviewed, people would be aware of those things and just be able to think about them, I think that would be a good idea.
Put it on the radar.
Yep.
And you're saying put that in the strategic plan?
As like a final section or, you know, we've identified these as potential emerging issues for the next review of this plan.